Picture this. You're in high school and your teacher says,
All right, class. Extra credit opportunity. Explain how pi was discovered. Due tomorrow.
so you pull out your phone, look it up, and once you've got the answer, you need to write it down. Or it's February 14th. You finally work up the courage to write a love letter to the girl you've had a crush on since middle school.
Dear Marie, I've always found you beautiful and I hope we can talk about this. I'm sorry if it took me.
Or maybe you just crushed a job interview. The recruiter smiles and says,
Great. Welcome aboard, Google. Just sign these papers and you're all set.
what do all these moments have in common? Well, besides the fact that they're completely made up, let's be real. Marie probably left you on red. Well, all these things rely on paper. But where does paper actually come from? How long have we had it? And what brilliant minds paved the way for this simple yet world-changing invention? To understand that, we need to take a journey through time and explore the history of paper. Before paper, before ink flowed onto pages, humanity had to solve a crucial problem: how to preserve knowledge beyond mere memory. And at first, we didn't really write. We painted, carved, and scratched stories into stone. From the Lascaux caves in France to the petroglyphs of the Sahara, our ancestors left behind glimpses of their world, stories told in images rather than words. Over time, these images became symbols. In ancient Mesopotamia around 3200 BCE, the Sumerians took a crucial step forward, transforming pictures into a structured writing system. They developed cuneiform, pressing wedge-shaped symbols into wet clay with a stylus. Sturdy? Yes. Portable? Not so much. These tablets were baked or left to dry, making them durable enough to survive thousands of years. They recorded everything from trade transactions to laws and epic tales like the Epic of Gilgamesh, offering us a glimpse into one of humanity's earliest civilizations. But clay wasn't the only solution. Around 3000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians introduced something unique: papyrus. But how was it made? The process was labor-intensive. First, they harvested the papyrus plant, cut it into thin strips, and soaked them in water to soften the fibers. Then, they laid the strips in overlapping layers and pressed them together. As they dried, the natural sap in the plant acted as glue, binding the sheet into a flexible, yet sturdy writing surface. Papyrus was used for everything: religious texts, administrative records, and letters. But it had limitations. It was fragile, didn't handle humidity well, and could only be produced in regions where the papyrus plant thrived, mainly along the Nile. Meanwhile, in ancient China, around 1000 BCE, scholars wrote on bamboo strips and wooden tablets. This system was highly effective. Bamboo was plentiful, durable, and perfect for preserving records, philosophy, and government decrees. But while effective, it had its downsides. Bamboo books were heavy and cumbersome. Imagine carrying an entire library made of wooden planks. Still, this method allowed China to build a vast written tradition, from early philosophy to detailed records of the imperial court. We'll come back to China later, but for now, let's take a look at how other parts of the world tackled the same challenge. By the 2nd century CE, parchment, made from treated animal skins, became Europe's preferred medium. Unlike fragile papyrus, parchment was strong, long-lasting, and resistant to humidity, making it ideal for preserving knowledge. Parchment making was painstaking. Artisans soaked animal skins in lime, scraped off the hair, stretched them tightly, and meticulously smoothed the surface with pumice stones. The result was a smooth, durable writing surface, but at a cost. Literally. Producing parchment was expensive. It required high-quality animal skins, typically from sheep, goats, or calves, and extensive labor. This meant that books remained rare and valuable, often reserved for religious texts, legal documents, and royal decrees. Despite the cost, parchment played a crucial role in Europe's intellectual history. It became the foundation for illuminated manuscripts, lavishly illustrated texts that preserved knowledge and culture for centuries. Across the ocean, Mesoamerican civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs developed amate paper, made from tree bark around 500 CE. Unlike papyrus or parchment, amate wasn't woven or stretched. It was pounded and pressed, creating a uniquely textured and resilient surface. The process began with carefully selecting the inner bark of fig or mulberry trees. The bark was stripped, soaked in water to soften the fibers, then laid out on a smooth stone surface. Using heavy volcanic stones, artisans pounded the softened fibers, breaking them down until they formed an interconnected mat. The sheet was then left to dry in the sun, resulting in a durable, flexible material that could be folded, written on, and even painted. The Maya and Aztecs used amate for codices, detailed books that recorded history, astronomy, and rituals. But despite its ingenuity, amate paper never spread far beyond Mesoamerica. Across the world, civilizations found their own ways to record knowledge. Clay, wood, bark, and parchment each served their purpose. But none were perfect. Some were fragile, others heavy, and many were expensive to produce. But in one corner of the world, an experiment was taking shape, one that would solve these problems and change the course of human history. The world was about to be introduced to paper. We're back in China. Damn, the Chinese were on another level. No wonder everybody's always trying to keep up with them. By even as early as 200 BCE, Chinese artisans had begun experimenting with a completely new writing material, something called paper. The process was deceptively simple. Soak plant fibers, beat them into a fine pulp, spread the slurry onto a flat surface, and let it dry in the sun. The result? A thin, flexible sheet that was lightweight and easy to write on. Compared to bamboo or silk, it was a revolutionary step forward. But these early sheets were rough and inconsistent, and for centuries papermaking remained an imperfect art. That was about to change. In 105 CE, a court official named Cai Lun took papermaking to the next level. Up until then, paper was crude and inconsistent, too rough for delicate writing and difficult to produce in uniform sheets. But Cai Lun saw potential. He began experimenting with a new approach, searching for materials that would create a smoother, more durable product. Cai Lun's method started with plant fibers, hemp, mulberry bark, and tree bark, soaked in water until they softened. He then added rags, worn-out fishing nets, and old cloth scraps, breaking them down into a fine pulp. Unlike earlier methods, which resulted in thick, uneven sheets, Cai Lun refined the process with a delicate bamboo mold, a fine mesh screen that helped create a uniform, thin layer of pulp. Once the excess water drained, the sheet was carefully lifted and pressed to remove moisture. The final step was drying, often in the sun or pressed between smooth surfaces. The result? A stronger, smoother, and more flexible sheet that absorbed ink beautifully. His innovation impressed the imperial court, and soon paper became the dominant writing medium in China. For the first time in history, writing had a surface that was cheap, practical, and mass-producible. From government records to poetry, paper would soon be at the heart of Chinese civilization. But paper's influence would not remain confined to China. Through trade and conquest, its secret would soon spread beyond China's borders, changing the world forever. For centuries, China guarded the secret of papermaking. But as trade flourished along the Silk Road, knowledge of this incredible material began to travel. Slowly, paper made its way through Central Asia. In 751 CE, history took a dramatic turn. At the Battle of Talas, the Abbasid Caliphate clashed with the Tang dynasty. Among the prisoners taken were skilled Chinese papermakers, men who carried knowledge of a craft that would reshape civilizations. With their expertise, the first paper mills outside of China were established in Samarkand, a center of Islamic learning and trade. From there, the craft spread rapidly through the Islamic world. Islamic scholars embraced the new material, refining it into high-quality sheets that were thinner, stronger, and more versatile than ever before. Soon, books, scientific treatises, and religious texts were being recorded on durable, accessible paper. By the 12th century, paper had reached Europe, where its impact was just beginning. The first European paper mills emerged, using linen rags as the primary raw material. With improved technology, paper became more affordable, fueling the spread of knowledge across the continent. Paper didn't just change how we wrote, it changed how we thought. For the first time, ideas could be copied and shared on a massive scale. Religious texts, scientific discoveries, and literary works now spread faster than ever before. But there was a limit. Every book, every document still had to be copied by hand, a slow and painstaking process. Even with paper, knowledge could only spread so fast. Yet change was coming. An invention was on the horizon, one that would take the written word and launch it into the future, forever transforming how knowledge was shared. The printing revolution was about to begin.